Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, Mike Lindell sent me a note yesterday. He has a special for the 6-piece towel set, $25 when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com, use promo code Joey. You'll get the $25 offer on the 6-piece towel set, and I promise you, these will be the most comfortable, the most absorbent towels that you own. mypillow.com, use promo code Joey, get the 6-piece towel set for just $25. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Former President Donald Trump says he will meet with Ukrainian President Zelensky at Trump Tower with the goal of creating a peace agreement between Ukraine and Russia. Also, could be some good news for Donald Trump as judges on a New York appeals court appear to be open-minded and receptive to the possibility of reversing or reducing the $454 million civil fraud judgment in New York Attorney General Letitia James's lawsuit against the former president. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz claimed that they are responsible gun owners. However, Karine Jean-Pierre, when questioned during the White House press briefing on what type of guns they actually own, refused to speculate and deferred the question to the vice president, who, of course, has ignored the question out on the campaign trail. And Jonathan Turley raises some interesting questions about the indictment of New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Is this just a case of the Democrats eating their own?
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Welcome into Sunrise, Carolina on this early Friday morning. Grab a cup of coffee. We'll jump right in. Hurricane Helene intensified last night into a major Category 4 hurricane with winds exceeding 130 miles per hour at times as it continued on a path that brought this monster storm into Florida's Big Bend region in what was forecast as a potentially unsurvivable 20-foot storm surge, catastrophic hurricane-force winds, and flooding rain going into today. It's too soon this morning to see what the actual storm did overnight. The National Hurricane Center warned that Hurricane Helene would continue to intensify when it made landfall early this morning. We do know that the storm surge was already becoming a problem for southwest Florida ahead of Helene's landfall. St. Petersburg, Florida, Naples, Florida had reported a storm surge of 2 to 3 feet early evening and later into the night. And this was when Hurricane Helene was more than 100 miles off of the Florida Gulf Coast. In the Carolinas, there have been a lot of power outages, interruptions of phone service, internet service, a lot of this due to trees falling down. The National Weather Service last night issued a kind of dire warning. Let me read part of it to you. This is directly from the National Weather Service. This will be one of the most significant weather events to happen in the western portions of the area in the modern era. Record flooding is forecast and has been compared to the floods of 1916 in the Asheville, North Carolina area. The impacts from this event are expected to be greater than Tropical Storm Fred from August 2021, the mountains in 2004 from Francis and Ivan, and in upstate South Carolina, the Saluda River Basin flooding from 1949. We plead with everyone that you take every single weather warning very seriously through the entirety of this event, as impacts will be life-threatening, and make sure to have multiple ways to receive the alerts. The protection of life and property is the overall mission of the National Weather Service, and we pledge to stand by the folks of the Western Carolinas and Northeast Georgia. We cannot stress the significance of this event enough. Heed all evacuation orders from your local emergency managers and go to a storm shelter if you do not feel safe at your current location. Hurricane Helene will make landfall in the Big Bend area of Florida. Significant to catastrophic life-threatening flooding will occur along and near the Blue Ridge Escarpment. Historic flooding will be possible in this area as an additional 9 to 14 inches of rainfall will be in store. So a very dire warning from the National Weather Service last night. Again, too early to tell as the sun rises today over the Carolinas and Northeast Georgia, but we'll keep you updated on just what, and as they warned, as you get these notifications, be sure and pay attention. Keep your radio on 98.9 WORD the voice of the Carolinas, and we'll keep you up to date. Former President Donald Trump says he will meet with Ukrainian President Zelensky at Trump Tower. The announcement comes as Zelensky engages with a number of U.S. leaders, including he's had meetings with President Joe Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, as he was in Washington, D.C. Trump aims to forge a peace deal, he says, between Ukraine and Russia, asserting his desire to, quote, save lives. The meeting is supposed to take place at Trump Tower. This is really a big deal for the president of Ukraine to be meeting with a presidential candidate. Zelensky, again, met with Biden, met with Harris to discuss ongoing U.S. support for Ukraine. And I'm sure Zelensky, in his mind, he's got to play both sides. He has to win either way. So he wants to keep Kamala Harris happy in case she wins, and he wants to keep Donald Trump happy in case he wins. Trump emphasized his goal of creating a peace agreement between Ukraine and Russia. Now, wouldn't it be something? You know, Trump has said that if elected, he will end this war before he is even sworn in. Wouldn't it be something if he was able to broker a deal even before the election? The Biden administration reiterated its commitment to supporting Ukraine against Russian aggression. As tensions continue to flare in Eastern Europe, this meeting with Zelensky and Trump will be closely watched, particularly regarding any potential diplomatic breakthroughs. Meanwhile, could be some good news for Donald Trump in a major development in this civil fraud case against the former president. Judges on a New York appeals court showed openness to the possibility of reducing or maybe even overturning the $454 million judgment issued in the Attorney General Letitia James's lawsuit. The case, which alleges persistent fraud by Trump and his company, faces new scrutiny as Trump's legal team pushes to reverse the ruling, claiming that it's excessive and unconstitutional. We all know that. We all know that this was a politically motivated case from the very beginning. Letitia James ran on the premise that she was going to go after the Trump organization. A 5-judge panel in Manhattan heard oral arguments on the appeal. They appeared, again, open to maybe taking some action, maybe reconsidering parts of this civil fraud judgment against Trump. Judge Peter Moulton raised concerns about the, quote, immense penalty in the case, signaling a willingness to maybe either overrule it or at least decrease it. Trump's attorneys argued that the initial ruling by Judge Arthur Ergeron, which found Trump liable for multiple fraud charges, was draconian and unconstitutional. They also pointed out potential violations of the statute of limitations referencing transactions dating back over a decade. You know, I always thought it was interesting when the Trump attorneys raised this because they did go back decades, but yet Hunter Biden has been able to get off scot-free because of a statute of limitations on a number of his charges. But it's okay for the Bidens to use that to get off because of the statute of limitations, but they seem to ignore it for Donald Trump. Trump's lawyer, John Sawyer, contended that there were no victims and no complaints from lenders or insurers regarding Trump's business dealings, questioning the basis of Attorney General James's lawsuit. Well, the basis is real simple. It's called politics. She's a Democrat. He's a Republican. That's the basis. They have turned our legal system into a political weapon. We all know that. Witnesses, including former Deutsche Bank executives, testified that the banks valued Trump's business and sought continued partnership. Look, I can promise you, banks and insurance companies do their own evaluation. They weren't depending on anything that Donald Trump or his organization put on these applications and on his financial. They do their own work. They're not going to you don't just walk into a bank, give them what you think your home's worth, for example, and expect them to issue to loan you money to give you a mortgage based on that. They're going to have their own person go out and do an appraisal, right? While the judgment initially stood at $355 million, daily interest accruals have pushed the penalty over $470 million to date, and it will keep on ticking. Trump's legal team secured a reduction in the bond payment, slashing it to $175 million as the appeals process continues. The appellate court is expected to rule within a month, potentially delivering a final verdict before the November 5th election. Trump has vowed to fight the case up to the U.S. Supreme Court if necessary, emphasizing his determination to challenge the ruling. What a crazy political world we live in that this is allowed to go on. Hopefully this judge will see it for what it is and toss the whole thing. Put this behind us. Your comments are welcome. Send me a quick text. You can email me, Joey at joeyhudson.com. And I love to get your messages on the MyPillow message line. Just call 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Leave me a quick message. And once again, MyPillow has been canceled by another box store, so they're passing an incredible offer to listeners. This is the best deal I've ever heard. The standard MyPillow normally retails for $49.98. Now, for a limited time, when you use promo code Joey, you're going to get it for $14.98. Now, there's a limit here. You can only order 10 at a time. So go to mypillow.com or call 800-893-4058, 800-893-4058, or mypillow.com. Use promo code Joey. Get the standard MyPillow for only $14.98, regular $49.98. Again, a limit of 10, so go ahead and order. It's not too early to start ordering Christmas gifts. Order the maximum of 10 and give some away for Christmas presents. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, Joey at joeyhudson.com. PhD Weight Loss wants you to know, yes, you can. You can get back to your ideal healthy weight. Yes, you can get back into sizes you thought you'd never see again. And yes, you can get rid of that harmful belly fat, all without becoming dependent on medication loaded with side effects. Hi, it's Joey Hudson here. PhD Weight Loss encourages and equips you to lose weight the healthy, natural way and keep it all for the rest of your life. Dr. Ashley Lucas, a licensed registered nutritionist, developed a solid plan that works. Trust me, I lost 30 pounds. You see, PhD Weight Loss removes the guesswork. They literally tell you exactly what to eat each day while you watch the pounds melt away. But they also teach you to think about food differently and to learn to anticipate and navigate situations that make you want to indulge. PhD coaches will teach you to believe finally that yes, you can do it. With no gimmicks or lifelong medications, finally lose the weight and keep it off. Yes, you can. Call today. PhD Weight Loss, 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com. Is New York Mayor Eric Adams a crook? Does he deserve to go to prison, or is he just guilty of enjoying the high life that comes to people in power in a large city like New York City? Does anyone really care? And is the mayor right that he was targeted by the Biden power elites because he complained about the large number of illegals dumped in his esteemed city? New York City Mayor Eric Adams was charged with conspiracy to receive illegal foreign campaign contributions, wire fraud, and bribery in a 57-page indictment that detailed lavish trips and other perks the mayor allegedly accepted from Turkish officials. Joe Anuta reports, according to the indictment, which was unsealed Thursday, Adams accepted free travel on Turkish Airlines worth thousands of dollars, illegal contributions to his 2021 mayoral campaign, and other perks from a number of people connected to the Turkish government. In exchange, prosecutors allege that Adams used his position as incoming mayor to influence the opening of the Turkish consulate in Manhattan. Now, do some of these charges, some of these offenses, alleged offenses, sound familiar? Receiving foreign money in exchange for access, in exchange for influence, sounding familiar? Isn't it a bit ironic that a Democrat mayor of a major city who happens to be on the Biden's wrong side now because of his complaints and his criticism of the illegals being dumped in his city, now he finds himself on the wrong end of the law? Jonathan Turley, who is the Shapiro Professor of Public Interest Law at George Washington University, a very smart guy. He's the author of The Indispensable Right, Free Speech in an Age of Rage, raises some interesting questions in an opinion piece published in the New York Post yesterday. He writes, the federal 5-count indictment of New York Mayor Eric Adams is on its face a damning document of alleged public corruption. The government is alleging that Turkish officials saw Adams as a rising star in the Democrat Party and started to groom him for influence. However, Once beyond the details of the opulent rooms and flight upgrades, there may be less here than meets the eye in some of these charges. Turley goes on to explain the campaign contribution violations raise serious problems for Adams in the alleged solicitation of unlawful foreign contributions. Yet the counts must be read with caution. We have not seen the specific defenses to the allegations of using straw men to funnel unlawful contributions and the alleged favors bestowed on contributors. Indictments are a one-sided and highly slanted interpretation of the facts by prosecutors in order to secure their conviction. For example, Turley says many of the gifts from Turkish sources were realized in the form of upgrades on flights to business class or expensive hotel suites. It is not clear what Adams knew of the logistics for such travel or the inclusion in annual reports. Despite their public personas, many populist politicians tend to be a pampered class who expect to be feted in the best quarters as they speak as the voice of the people, he says. Turley says that was captured most vividly by New York City Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez sashaying at the Met Gala in a designer dress reading "Tax the Rich." He writes, "It was a scene with a crushing irony. The dress itself was worth more than most people make in a year, and it was just loaned to AOC despite being made specifically for her. She also did not pay for her ticket, which would have cost $35,000. It triggered an ethics investigation and allegations of ethical violations. In one night, Ocasio-Cortez flaunted roughly half of the value of the alleged Adams gifts as he paraded as a social warrior among the social elite. The truly hilarious aspect was that it was that elite that was thrilled by the demonstration and subsidized it. The Adams allegations, he writes, would constitute a fairly crude form of corruption by today's standards. For the Biden family, it looks like small potatoes. See what I'm telling you? I mean, this is very similar, except on a very small scale. He says Adams lacked a hunter and the type of labyrinth of accounts maintained by the Bidens to funnel millions from foreign sources. One of the most discussed allegations concerns a high-rise building built by Turkish friends in Manhattan to serve as their new consulate. The Turks wanted the building open before the arrival of the Turkish president in 2021, but there were some problems. Turley writes, the problem is that according to prosecutors, the New York Fire Department officials found a series of dangerous defects in the building and believed that it was a fire risk. They refused to allow the building to open until it met those standards. The government alleges that Turkish officials immediately dialed up their well-groomed ally, Mayor Adams, and told him that it was his turn to support Turkey. Adams intervened, and prosecutors say that the fire department officials were afraid for their jobs. Once again, however, Adams has defenses, Turley argues. He can argue that New York is the home of the United Nations and a large population of diplomats and international organizations. This was a foreign country seeking to open a consulate, and he intervened to avoid an embarrassing diplomatic tiff, suggesting that a push to cut short the fire inspections may be difficult to maintain under a bribery theory, he says. That was the type of expansive case that government attorney Jack Smith used against former Virginia Republican Governor Robert McDonnell, and it failed spectacularly before the Supreme Court. There are other reasons besides flight upgrades why Adams might have facilitated the speed up of the building approvals. In the end, this is a Bob Menendez light indictment. Failing to publicly list how you move from economy to business class on flights is hardly the stuff of all the king's men. It is more like all the king's upgrades. The biggest problem for Adams is that the U.S. Attorney's Office went public with a threat for all of those who do not cooperate and pledge that more will be held accountable. And he's right. That's the big thing, because there are going to be people squealing like pigs. In other words, he says the indictment amplified the tune-in to a game of musical chairs. Anyone close to Adams may want to sit down before the music stops. That means that Adams can expect close associates to be testifying against him with the enthusiasm of those threatened with ruin by federal prosecutors. If Eric Adams is convicted, it will be at the hands of his associates. The jury will not be particularly sympathetic with a politician snaring the Bentley suite at the St. Regis Istanbul. Prosecutors love to play on such opulence like the use of the Paul Manafort's $15,000 ostrich coat. Combined with former friends and associates, it may be enough for the ultimate upgrade for Adams from business class to a federal cell block. And he may go to jail. But do you see the irony of these charges against Eric Adams? And these federal prosecutors have the nerve to go after him. And look, I'm obviously no Adams fan. I really don't care a whole lot about what Eric Adams does. But the irony here that they're charging him, they're going after him for something that the president's son has done, and the president's probably guilty himself. But yet they let the Bidens go scot-free. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. I've been warning you this week about the potential dock worker strike that could be taking place as early as Tuesday, I guess it is, and what this could mean to you, how this could affect your life. The U.S. automotive industry is subject to face significant disruptions as this potential strike by the dock workers at the East and Gulf Coast ports threaten to halt the flow of essential imports. Car dealerships across the country are bracing for what they say could be delays in new vehicle deliveries and a shortage of parts as well. And this is how it could really affect you, because if you have a repair that you need done on your car, you may not be able to get the part that's needed to get that repair done. So it could delay you, and it could also drive up prices and make both purchasing and maintaining cars pricier and more difficult. The contract deadline is approaching. The impact on you, the consumers, is going to be felt nationwide. So here's what we have. Here's what's happening. The International Longshoremen Association, which represents 45,000 dock workers at over 3 dozen U.S. ports, warned that a strike would occur or could occur if contract negotiations aren't resolved by October 1st. The ports handle half of the nation's seaborne imports, including crucial vehicle parts and materials. I talked with you yesterday about produce and other, like bananas. A large portion of the country's bananas come through these ports from the South American countries. Some of you suggested that maybe some of the illegals could start bringing bananas with them. Auto dealerships, who are already struggling with limited inventory, still post-pandemic issues, face the risk of burning through current stock within a month if this strike occurs, according to some of the analysts. Tom Maioli, owner of Celebrity Motor Car Company, warned that inventory shortages would quickly worsen, leaving dealers with very little to sell. Is this kind of flashbacks to COVID? Remember how during COVID you could drive by car dealerships and their parking lots were empty? We could be seeing that again. Experts predict that a strike will drive up the prices of both new and used cars due to the supply chain bottleneck. It's just simple economics. Fewer cars on the market, demand will outweigh supply, making it more expensive for you to buy that new vehicle and potentially for you to buy that used vehicle as well. Even for cars manufactured in the U.S., we're told, essential parts like transmissions, sometimes wheels come from overseas. And if this strike goes on very long, it could force customers to wait 30 to 90 days for repairs, affecting everyday maintenance like tires and brakes and other things that we just have to have for our vehicles. Brian Moody's, executive editor of Auto Trader, advised vehicle owners to schedule necessary repairs or recall services now. Get it in there next week. Go ahead and get it scheduled because, most dealerships and repair shops have a supply of parts right now. If this strike happens next week, they'll start running through that pretty quickly. But if you get yours in quickly, then maybe you can get what you need done and have your car back before this really becomes an issue. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre declined to answer questions yesterday about Vice President Kamala Harris's gun ownership during an announcement regarding new executive actions on gun violence. The questions arose after Harris, during a recent debate, of course, mentioned that she and her running mate, Governor, Walz, are gun owners. She very proudly made the statement that, hey, I own a gun too. First time any of us had heard that, particularly coming from someone who has advocated for stricter gun control measures, including a mandatory buyback program, which has added fuel to the ongoing debate over gun policy in our country. Here's the exchange with Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday and a reporter who we can't see, so I can't identify. I can't tell you who it is.
On the gun event today, what kind of gun does the vice president have, and when did she buy it?
That's something for her office to speak to.
The reason I'm asking is because you have this event today, but the VP, as district attorney, sponsored Proposition H in 2005. It would have banned handguns within San Francisco city limits and required that residents turn in the handguns that they already own by a certain deadline or face mandatory jail time. But she's out on the campaign trail now saying that she's a proud gun owner and is not going to take away your guns. So can the White House get us an answer on that? Because she hasn't, and her campaign officials also haven't answered that question, even on television.
Look, a couple of things here. When it comes to the VP and owning a gun, she can speak for herself. The campaign could speak for that. Her office can speak for that. That's for them to speak to. There's no conflict here when we're saying that we want to see responsible gun ownership. That's what we want to see, responsible gun ownership. I think that is what's important here. At the end of the day, gun violence is an epidemic in our country. Think about our schools, our grocery stores. It's an epidemic. We have done the work. We have seen violent crimes go down because of the work that this president and this vice president has done. There's an office to prevent gun violence, and that is something that she leads. But we're asking for responsible gun ownership. That's what we want to see. That's what's important here. And if people don't understand that, I don't know how to further even explain that to them. Our kids, our schools, there's an epidemic here. There's an epidemic. There are drills happening in our schools right now. That's something that the president's going to speak to. That is traumatizing some of our kids because of this epidemic. And so that should be the focus. How do we make sure that we end this epidemic? We want to see responsible gun ownership. That's what we want to see.
Responsible gun ownership. That's what we want to see, she says. Look, I want to know what kind of gun Kamala Harris has. I mean, I know this is just sort of a simple question, and it's probably a minor detail in the overall scheme of things. But when are we going to start calling her out? And if she doesn't really own a gun, for her to say on an issue like this, an issue that this is that's as important as this, if she lies just to try to make herself look chic and like that ordinary middle class person she's trying to be, then we need to know that. And kudos to this this reporter, whoever it was. Again, I couldn't see her, and Karine did not call her by name initially, so I could have missed it. But we need to know an answer to this. The press secretary deflected multiple times. I mean, I just shared with you a portion of this. This reporter asked her and kept asking her multiple times about Kamala Harris's personal gun ownership, insisting that such details were important to the American people. And Karine Jean-Pierre kept insisting, well, that's something you need to ask her. The problem with that is she doesn't answer any questions from the press. You can't ask her that. And none of these people that she's agreeing to sit down with will ask her that question. They won't follow up with it. During the briefing, Jean-Pierre emphasized the importance of addressing gun violence, labeling it, as you heard, an epidemic, and highlighting the Biden-Harris administration's commitment to combating it. She stressed that President Biden's upcoming executive actions aim to reduce gun violence, especially in schools and public spaces. Her past support of stricter gun control, Harris that is, and she supported San Francisco's 2005 Proposition H, which would have banned handguns and required residents to turn in their firearms. I wonder if she's ready to turn hers in. This contrasted with Harris's current claims of supporting responsible gun ownership. So which is it, Kamala? Which is it? Is it okay for you to proudly own a gun, as you say you do now? Or should you be turning it into the government? The briefing introduced new executive actions yesterday aimed at improving school-based active shooter drills and regulating dangerous weapons like machine gun conversion devices and 3D printed firearms. Jean-Pierre argued that the administration's focus remains, of course, on responsible gun ownership. She said that over and over again, responsible gun ownership. Clips have resurfaced of Harris at when she was San Francisco district attorney, in which she suggested checking the homes of legal gun owners for safety compliance. I mean, coming into your home, searching your home. And that's why some people don't like the idea of buying guns legally because there's a record of it. But can you imagine that? This lady saying that she thinks that it's okay, and maybe even suggested that your home should be checked if you're a gun owner. Look, we need to know if she has a gun. I want to know. Do you? Text me. Email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Is it important to you to know if Kamala Harris really does have a gun? Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Email's always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Whether you're replacing a broken appliance or maybe you're just upgrading, you're totally remodeling the kitchen, when it's time to get those new appliances, when you're ready for them, you don't want to have to wait weeks or even months to get started using them, right? Well, that's not the case when you shop with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. With over 11,000 square feet and 1,500 appliances at any given time, you can buy today and use today quite often. I'm talking about shopping with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. It's worth the short drive over to Pickens. Jeff, Johnny, Kyle, the whole team over there, they'll take good care of you. They have an award-winning service department, expert installation, extended warranties, and at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they treat you like family. You're more than just a credit card swipe to all the team over there. Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they're proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with manufacturer's warranties that cover parts and labor. You owe it to yourself, if you're looking for a new appliance, to head over to Pickens to Discounted Appliance Warehouse online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com. On the text line, texter says, Joey, I thought if you make threats of death to an individual, you could be arrested for conspiracy to commit murder. Well, where is the spineless Republicans when it comes to prosecuting lawless behavior? Democrats aren't the only problem with America. Rhino Republicans have their issues as well. Texter, Mr. Thomason from Morganton, North Carolina, appreciate you listening in Morganton, says, we already have a national abortion ban. It's called murder. These comments are made, of course, in reference to my comments in yesterday's show about a national abortion ban and whether or not that's something that even needs to be in the political discussion. I mean, the reversal of Roe v. Wade put the question of abortion back to the states where it belongs. Let each individual state make that decision. I'm not sold on the idea of us pushing for a national abortion ban. Maybe we should be, and that was my question to you. Is that something that we need to be discussing on a national level? And look, I'm always open to your text. and your emails, joey@joeyhudson.com. Texter, hey, Joey, I called Kamala fancy because with her middle-class upbringing, well, there's that, bringing her mother, her middle-class upbringing, her mother didn't have money for food or rent, so she made her a dancing dress. It said now that fancy don't let me down. Kamala, don't let me down. Look, I'm so tired of hearing her talk about her middle-class background. I'm going to do a montage for you one day of all of the times that she's used that in the past few weeks. And unfortunately, I have some poll results from Fox News, if I get time, to share some with you. People, particularly in Georgia, this is the battleground state of Georgia, people are starting to buy that. A lot of the people polled in Georgia claim that they believe that she'll do more for the middle class. And that's why she keeps bringing this up, because she knows if she says it enough, people will believe it. Texter says, Kamala also said that nobody goes to Trump rallies, and the ones that do leave early. What a liar. Yeah, well, look, that goes without saying. She is a liar. She is jealous because she and Joe Biden and Tim Walz and the whole crowd can't put together a group like Donald Trump can. What about Trump going back to Butler, Pennsylvania, where he was almost killed back in July? He has announced, I think it's October the 5th, next week, where he was going to have the rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. A texter says, Joey, we need some shock collars for these politicians with an increasing voltage every time they tell a lie. If we do that, there's going to be some dead politicians, because it won't take long for the voltage to get up to a lethal level. Good idea, though. Look, I'd rather have a shock. They should have a shock collar at the next debate, if there is one, so that the people at home can push the button when they think they're lying. How would that work? Texter says, I guess the illegals need to just start bringing bananas with them across the border. Yep. Look, this whole thing with the potential closing of the ports, it could get rough. And what a horrible time, particularly for the Democrats, because they're so much aligned with the unions. But really, let me tell you again, I told you a few minutes ago about automobile parts and how it may be tough to get parts and even new cars. If you need repairs, you might want to go ahead and try to get them done, because there's going to be some things. It's going to be tough to get a hold of certain things. Texter says, hey, Joey, I think abortion should be just like murder, because you're basically killing a child that hasn't been born yet. You're right. I mean, that's what it is. And when you see these signs and people wearing T-shirts and out parading around talking about, a woman's choice, do we allow women to make the choice of murdering someone? By allowing abortion, we do. Texter, Joey, the only remedy we had for the Carter economy was to vote in Reagan. It looks like a repeat this election year. The answer to fail Biden-Harris policies is to vote in Trump. And you're so right. There's so many similarities this year as opposed to, what was that, 1986 maybe? Yeah, 1986, when things had just gone nuts with Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter, I think, probably was a nice man. He was a God-fearing Christian man who was just in over his head. And he got us in a mess. I mean, you remember interest rates were like in the high teens, 17, 18, 19%. Inflation was crazy. We had fuel shortages. And boy, it took a toll on Jimmy Carter. Have you ever looked at photos of him when he was first elected and photos of him when he left office? His hair was white. He just didn't know what he was doing. Again, probably a nice guy. He should never have been president. But Jimmy Carter's making Joe Biden look good right now. Texter, wow. Eric Adams found out how the FBI reacts when Mazda Democrat slaves get uppity. Wow. Now that's, I'm reading a text, folks. That's not me talking. That was a text. Texter, the only reason foreigners get constitutional rights in the U.S. is so U.S. citizens that get arrested overseas can get better treatment. Okay. All right. Texter Joey, we need to change the chant from Orange Man bad to Black Broad bad. Kamala Harris is not going to be happy with that one, I can promise you. Your comments are welcome as well. You can always text me. You can always send me an email to joey@joeyhudson.com. I mentioned this latest Fox News poll, and I know we're all sick of polls, but just, hey, look, we still have what? How many days left? 48, 49. I lose count. So we're going to get a lot of polls. But Fox News released their latest poll, primarily focusing on the battleground state of Georgia. In a head-to-head matchup, Kamala Harris still leads Trump by 3 percentage points. Roughly 1 in 10 of each candidate supporters say that they may change their mind, though. More Georgians see Harris as the candidate who will help, and it's what I was saying a minute ago, who will help the middle class and protect democracy by a 7-point margin. She's also seen as the candidate more likely to fight for people like you when asked that question. Harris's largest lead is on handling the issue of abortion. Of course, she's favored by 18 points on abortion because people know that she's in favor of abortion. Now, Trump's largest lead is on handling immigration, and also people believe that he is the best for our economy. And again, that's where Donald Trump is going to beat her, is on the economy, because in the end, I don't know that people care as much about abortion as they do about what's in their pocketbook, what's in their wallet. And I think the economy is going to be the issue that wins out, and that's why I'm still hopeful and believe that Donald Trump can pull this off. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined our mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Just click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, find me on YouTube. Be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on my YouTube channel. Just search for Joey Hudson. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with me. Be sure and forward this edition of Just the Truth to some friends. Just click on the share button. Send it to a few of your contacts, because if we're going to build our community and if we're going to win in November, we got to build an army of conservatives. The way we beat Joe Biden is through educating people, and no better way than encouraging them to listen to Just the Truth. Hey, keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your emails always welcome as well. Joey@joeyhudson.com. Don't forget to take advantage of the MyPillow special, $25 for the My Towels 6-piece towel set when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. We're back again tomorrow. Hope you will be too. Remember, God's got this. He's still in control.